Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our presentation today, delivering a unified PPM and Agile management solution with Project Online. Before we get started, we have a few quick logistics to go over with you. First off, due to the large audience, we will not be opening the line for questions at the end of the presentation today. However, please feel free to leverage the chat module within your GoToWebinar panel to ask questions. We'll be monitoring that panel throughout the presentation should you have any questions. You can also feel free to email me directly or my colleague Matt will be giving you our information towards the end of the webinar. That being said, all lines will be muted throughout the presentation. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away during the webinar, no worries. We will be distributing the recording of today's presentation to all registrants following the webinar. So with that, let's move on to the agenda. For today's agenda, we'll first be covering a high-level overview of PPM. We'll also cover the impact that Agile project management has on the PPM discipline. We'll then go into the various problems typically found when you have multiple systems housing your projects and those systems are disconnected or segregated. We'll talk about the benefits of Agile and the benefits of a unified PPM solution. And then my colleague Matt Willey will be walking you through a demo of various Agile tools that can be used in a single unified PPM solution. So with that, let's get into the details. So Agile project management adoption is on the rise. One of our partners, VersionOne, they're an end-to-end Agile lifecycle management solution provider. They conduct an annual report every year on the state of Agile. And in their 2014 report, it reflected that in late 2013, 88% of organizations were practicing Agile. That was up by 5% the previous year and 3% the year before that. So it's very common for Agile methodologies to coexist in organizations along with traditional PPM methods. Although these methodologies coexist within organizations, in many cases, the project delivered from them remain in separate systems simply because the teams that own them have differing objectives. And of course, when teams have differing objectives, it often leads to conflicting views, right? You have different needs, so you have conflicting views. The challenges that leaders can be faced with due to segregated systems far outweigh the impact of trying to implement a hybrid model, or that where you have Agile and traditional projects all delivered from one solution. It's a common fact. We all know that PMOs are known to be structured and disciplined units, right? They need to plan and manage and prioritize their project work against timelines and budget constraints. Product teams, though, are different. They need a lot more flexibility. They need to be innovative and quick on their feet to stay on top of the competition. Both teams have very specific ways of managing their work, but we still need to get an enterprise level view of all projects, their statuses, especially their strategic alignment and their resources as well. This is another set of data from VersionOne's report that shows the top concerns that prevent Agile adoption. You can see that the lack of upfront planning and loss of management control reflect a common tension between the needs of the PMO and the Agile teams. By the way, I'll also, as I mentioned before, be distributing these slides after we conclude, so you can have these stats for your records as well. Each team has specific challenges that can be resolved through a unified solution. Project managers have visibility into their work, but often they have no purview whatsoever into development schedules. In many cases, they can't react quickly to changes simply because they're on disciplined PPM, right? They've got change control processes. Stakeholder management prevents them to change quickly. And then, of course, there's the typical baselines put in place at the beginning of the projects. They also don't understand development issues. And in many cases, they have resources working on both types of project, both Agile and traditional. So they need to be able to have visibility across all their teams' work, regardless of where the work actually resides. Developers as well, they require different tools because their planning is completely different, right? It's iterative. It allows for a think on your feet mentality. There's less PPM discipline when leveraging the Agile approach, such as automated statuses and approvals. They also don't have the visibility they need into project issues. So these challenges lead to a disconnect between the two teams that can cause much bigger challenges for the organization as a whole. So let's take a look at those. Limited visibility. It's difficult for PMs to manage progress when they don't have all the information they need to be informed and make the right decisions. Governance is a challenge because it's hard to find the answers to necessary questions, like are the most important things being developed first? And you've got traceability and misalignment with the business as another challenge. A lack of project consolidation can prevent the team from knowing and understanding the goals that should be reached and achieved for each deliverable. So is the project meeting the needs of the business? Also, how much is the project costing? And when will it be delivered given all the dependencies that may exist within other projects that also may be disconnected in the system? Communication across roles. How do the teams engage? And is the PMO communicating with the development team to reach common goals? Redundancy in manual process is a huge challenge. Oftentimes, automating a simple process can save each resource multiple hours per week. You can imagine this can add up quickly when the team is managing costly spreadsheets and generating manual reports due to data that's all over the board. And then finally, you have resource capacity and demand. Resource management is always critical for project success. If you don't know what your resources are working on, how much time they are allocated, and what their open capacity is, you won't be able to make the right decisions that can get your projects out quickly and within the given constraints. And also ensuring that they're working on the right work, right? Do you have the right skill sets on the right work for optimization? So this is an example of a unified PPM and Agile solution. This solution connects portfolio planning and strategic alignment with all development projects, which provides timely and actionable information that increases project visibility and transparency. Also reduces cost and accelerates product or application time to market. And for a little bit more detail, here you can see your traditional PPM disciplines across the top that are critical for all project success. You then have Microsoft Project to the left, the standard tool used with PMOs and other project groups for traditional project management. And then on your right, you have third-party tools, Jira, commonly used for small teams. You have TFS for Microsoft Dev Shops. And or you might have VersionOne for larger dev shops that have enterprise-wide Agile or a more disciplined or governance approach. Again, one unified solution for both Agile and traditional project management. So let's take a look at Project Connect. Project Connect is Tivity's tool for Microsoft Project that allows you to synchronize information across systems for many reasons, right? Better visibility and control, better collaboration, traceability compliance, and a big one, unified reporting. So Project Connect can help you easily integrate systems with Microsoft Project Online to form an all-work platform. You can see a few examples here on the screen. So what does that look like? One place essentially to go to get information for improved decision making and to bring all your work and projects into one powerful unified solution. So a simple use case before we get to our demo. This is a simple use case that kicks off with the project selection process within the PMO. The PMO then assigns dates and tasks. The development team manages their tasks and dates within their system of choice while reporting progress back to the PMO. And ultimately, the executives can then have a single source for reporting of the overall health of the organization's portfolio as a whole. Well, we've given you a visual of the overlying structure. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Matt so he can give you some more detail into the functionality itself. So Matt, over to you.
Thank you very much, Heather. So today we're going to be looking at two different systems integrated together to come up with this full solution where you can track both project management, standard project management, waterfall type projects, as well as you can track Agile projects. And you can even do a hybrid approach as well if you want to. So what we're going to do is walk through the basic process of how this could work. Now this isn't, you have to do this particular process. There are other ways that we could set up this integration to meet other use cases, but this is kind of a common one that we see a lot that people are generally looking for to be able to make happen between two different systems, an Agile system and a standard project management system. So a lot of times projects start out as ideas, and within the portfolio management world, you have to be able to rank all of those ideas together and figure out which ones we should do, which ones are going to give us the most value, etc. So we're going to start there and then work our way all the way from idea into building out the project plan, and once it's been approved, and the schedule, and breaking things down into subtasks, etc., statusing back and forth, and then eventually time tracking and reporting on the top of that. So let's start with the ideation process. So in Project Online, you can put in a list of all of the different ideas or project requests that you might have. So basically someone comes up and says, hey, we might want to develop a mobile timesheet app, or we want to develop an e-commerce portal, or whatever it might be. It's not necessarily, this particular ideation area doesn't have to be Agile based or project management based. You don't have to know that at this particular point. It's more just people have ideas that are going to give some value to the business based on initiatives that they have come up with. And you have one place where you can put in all of those ideas, you can rate them, you can put an approval workflow around them. Out of the box, there's a basic approval workflow that allows you to approve or reject these. And once you approve or reject them, it's not saying, hey, we're going to do this, we're ready to rock. It's more saying, we're interested, it looks valuable, let's do a little bit more research to see if this is more valuable than some of the other ideas that we like as well. So that moves you into, in Project Online, there's a whole portfolio selection part of the tool, which is going to allow you to really choose the right projects, the right work, the right things to do. The way it does that is you first define a bunch of different business drivers. So business drivers are things like, we want to expand into new markets, we want to improve sales, we want to reduce our expenses, right? Those types of things. So you sit down with your executive team or portfolio managers or whoever really is in charge of coming up with these goals or drivers, and you list them out to start with, right? Here's our drivers. Then the next step is you have to figure out, well, what are the different levels of impact of each of these drivers? Meaning, if one of our drivers is we want to grow revenue, well, if we pick low, the low choice, what does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to drive revenue by up to 500K. If we pick moderate, it's going to be 500K to 1 million that we're going to be driving revenue, that type of a thing. So that you have an idea when you're making these choices, instead of just saying it's low, medium, or high, and everybody always says their projects are high, you put a little bit more definition around that so that you can say, okay, if it's low, it's 500K or less that we think that we're going to get out of this particular project, that type of a thing. Once you do that for each of your business drivers, then you have to prioritize your business drivers to say basically which ones are more important. So is expanding into new markets more important than improving customer satisfaction? If so, how much more important? So you kind of go through this process and figure out, okay, here are our drivers. This one's more important than this one. This one's this much more important than that one, using what's called a pairwise comparison, and figure out really how we're going to score these projects based on these drivers and based on which drivers are more important than other drivers. Then the next step is you pick now from that, you take all of the different projects or ideas that have been approved, you take all of those and you line them all up. These are all the things that we think we might want to do. Now you come in and you say, okay, well, what value are these projects going to give us, basically? So based on all of these drivers, for each project you specify, okay, project number 1, acquisition target analysis. That's going to give me a strong ability to expand into new markets. It's not going to help me improve customer satisfaction, etc., those types of things, right? So you go through and you basically score each project based on all of those drivers that you came up with. By the way, you can create multiple different scoring methods. So for example, if all of your executives come together and they say, here are the drivers and here are the priorities of each driver, But then your CIO comes in and he wants to have his own score. He can create his own set of business drivers and his weighting on each of those drivers, and the COO can have his own. And then when you're rating projects, you might use a different one for different scenarios. For example, if I'm rating a bunch of IT projects, I might use the CIO's drivers, whereas if I'm rating projects across the organization, not in any particular area, I might use the executive consensus, that type of a thing. So now that you've rated every one of your projects based on the drivers and the prioritization, the system now analyzes all of your projects, and it's going to tell you based on a few different things. We have limitations on costs and resources, starting with costs. Let's say we have $15 million, which is what this scenario is showing here. What projects should we do to get the most value based on the priorities from those drivers that we defined? So what this is telling me is the projects in the top area here, it automatically selected all of these for me because these ones have a higher priority. They're driving more value for less cost, right? So we can stay within our budget and we can do all of these projects. However, the ones that it unselected down here are projects that we shouldn't be doing because they cost more than the value that they're going to give us. So this is telling me I can get 84% of the value if I do these particular projects. Now notice you can also force projects in. So let's say there's a compliance project that we have to do. It's government mandated, regulated, whatever it might be, and we have to do that. We can force those in and then it'll recalculate. And if there's a project we absolutely don't want to do for whatever reason, maybe we know that we don't have the skills to do it and it's going to take us too long to get them, we can push those types of projects out as well. And it's still going to calculate, then recalculate based on the priority, etc., and figure out how we can get the most value for our money. Then, once you figure out what you have budget for, the next step is, what do we have resources for? So even though we might have enough money to do these projects, do we have the people to do these projects? So what this shows me now is out of all of those projects that we had the amount of money to do, based off those same priorities, to get the most value, we should do these projects with the resources we have. We don't have enough resources to do this last project here. Now, sure, we could switch this project for another one. What this is saying is these are our most valuable ones for the amount of resources and cost, etc., right? So we want to do those, not this one down here. Well, what if you want to do that one down there, though, and we have the money to do it? Can we hire some more resources, or can we contract some people part-time, or whatever we might need to do? Well, of course you can, and the system will even tell you how to do that. So if I come here into the next page, this is what's called the hired resources report. So this is actually going to tell me that if we want to do all of those projects, there are 3 resources that we're missing. We need an analyst and 2 marketing people. It tells me how much work that we're going to need from these people. And you can see, for example, it's only 176 hours. This is a short period of time. And it's only, and there's a start date and an end date here. So it's a short period of time that we need work to be able to do this project. So maybe we just contract those people. We don't have to even hire any full-time people. As long as that fits within our budget, we're all good. So that's probably the way to go, so we can do that extra project. If we can't hire those resources or we can't contract them for whatever reason, then we know which projects we do and we just don't do that last one there, that type of a thing. Now, I know in a lot of organizations it doesn't work this way, right? Projects don't necessarily get prioritized and come in. It's like we sell something, now we have to do a project. So in that organization, you just kind of skip this part of the process and you go to the next part, right? This is work that we have to do. We're still going to prioritize it and assign the right resources and such, and figure out, where to put things and how to plan that, et cetera, and who do we need to hire. But it might be a little bit different of a process there. Once you've then selected the right projects, now is time where we really start to see this integration come together. Let's say some of those projects that we selected and approved require some Agile type work to be done, or they lend themselves better to Agile type work, maybe like a software development type of project. And let's say our Agile teams or our Scrum teams are already using another tool like Jira. So in this particular use case, we're going to talk through how Project Online can connect to Jira, so that you can manage these projects using Jira and still send all that information back for statusing and et cetera. And we'll look through all the different capabilities that gives you. So at a high level, just so you can kind of see what this integration is going to look like and how it's going to work, and then we'll talk through the whole process. We did that selection process in Microsoft Project, in Project Online, right? And then once we're at a certain point where it's approved, we can push that over into Jira and link those two projects together. So now we have a project in Project Online and a project in Jira that are linked together. And we pass over some key information that Jira needs, like the name of the project, the owner of the project, the description of the project, those types of things. Then at some point, you can either put some high-level items into Project Online, like say some high-level user stories, we want this, and we want to be able to do that, or maybe epics, something like that, and you push them over into Jira. And then as people break those up into smaller work items, create sub-tasks, assign it out, estimate them, those types of things, we send all that information back into Project so that the person who's working in project, either the project manager or the product owner, or just maybe you're sending it back for other stakeholders, the executive team, is going to be able to see the status of those items and going to be able to see the estimates of work, etc., those types of things pushed back into project. Then later on, as we actually start to work on that work in Jira, people are going to track time on that work possibly, and one of the big problems with not connecting the systems together is that I, as a developer or a QA or whoever working on the Agile team, have to go put my time into Jira, and then I have to go, say, put my time into Project Online or another timesheet system, wherever you might be keeping track of your timesheets. But with the integration, it just pushes that information back so that we now in project can see the amount of time being spent on these different user stories and tasks and defects, etc., that you might be working on within Jira. So that's at a high level, the integration. Let's walk through now in detail and actually see what this looks like and feel how that could work and how you can bring these two systems together. So in this use case, like I said, there are multiple different use cases, but the one we're going to be going through today is, let's say we've selected the right project. The name of my project is e-commerce portal. We're going to build a new e-commerce portal, and part of that project is going to require development. And what I can do is, say the product owner is in project, I can come in and I can start listing out high-level user stories or epics or whatever we might do within our organization to define kind of the requirements for this particular project. You can come and you can start listing those things out. When you do that, there's an area over here that says Jira Sync. So there's two choices, sync or don't sync. And if you set it to sync, it's going to push those work items or those user stories or epics, whatever it might be, it's going to push those into Jira. That way you don't have to go re-enter them in multiple systems, and when those update, you don't have to come make updates back here, right? It's going to just push them over into Jira for you. So all you do is you publish out your project, and now we're here in Jira. So in Jira, now let's say I'm the dev manager, right? I'm in charge of taking these user stories and breaking them down into more technical types of tasks, assigning them out to people, and figuring out what needs to be done to make this happen. I might be working with the UX designer and QA and the back with the product owner as well. We might all be working together to do this process, but the key is that we're doing it here in Jira in a tool that works for us, that makes sense for the product team or the software development team to work on. Keep in mind, it doesn't necessarily have to be software development. There's lots of other teams that use Jira to manage their work that aren't software development as well, and you can do similar types of stories. So now I have all these items in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start breaking them down. In this particular case, I have user stories here, like as a buyer, I need to be able to view available products and details within this e-commerce portal. And I need to break that down into different subtasks and assign that out to people, right? That's a really big story. We need to break it down into things like, okay, well, we need a searching capability so we can search through all the products. We need a filtering capability to filter them. We need a description of the products, screenshots of the products, etc. So you can start to break these things down and assign those out and to the different people who might be working on this particular work here within Jira. Then once you've broken that work down and you figured out what we need to do and prioritized it as well, working with the whole team there and the product owner, et cetera, to figure out what the priority is, then you got to plan these into sprints. So in sprint 3, we're going to do these 4 user stories. In sprint 4, we've planned these 2 user stories, and then we have a backlog here of user stories that have not yet been planned. So we can start to plan these all out in Jira. If you're familiar with Jira and you have a process in Jira, by no means are we requiring this to happen or anything like that. It's just a particular use case of how you might use the two systems together. Once you plan out a sprint and you have all the different user stories, tasks, defects, whatever it might be planned into that sprint, you can open the many different boards that you can configure within Jira to then track the progress of those items. So this particular board shows a swim lane for all of the to-do items, a swim lane for all of the in-progress items, and a swim lane for all of the finished items, the completed items, done items. And you can just visually see where things are, and then you can drag and drop these different tasks and or stories from one place to another to update the status very quickly and easily. So every morning when you have your Scrum meeting, if you do that, you can come in here, you can update the status on things and visually see where it's at to make sure you don't have too much in progress work or too much not started work and we're getting close to the finish date, what's going on, those types of things. It makes it very quick and easy to visualize that and to make updates. But as you're doing that, right, you're working in Jira and you're making those updates to status and you're assigning people and you're breaking down into subtasks, etc. It's automatically in real time going to send that information back into Project Online, into your project schedule for you. So I can see here under my development section, I have a develop code area. These were the high-level user stories I originally put in, like as a buyer I need to be able to view available products, etc. And it's actually pulling in those subtasks under it and then giving me key information about those subtasks, like what sprint is it in, what type of an issue is it in Jira, is it a subtask, is it a user story, etc. Those types of things, who's assigned, the estimated work, right? We can bring in those different types of pieces of information so that you can now get status in Project Online of what's going on. And we're going to talk about why that's important, why that we're going to bring that all in for reporting and etc. as well. So once I've brought all of that information in, I can do different things with it. I can look at it different ways. For example, this particular view is grouping by sprint so that I can see, okay, here's sprint 1. Here are the 2 different user stories that we've selected for sprint 1 as the highest priority that we could get done within that particular sprint. And here are the subtasks below those user stories. So just a different way of looking at this. Even within Project Online, you can look at this from more of an agile type of view where you're grouping things into sprints and such. Also, not only at the task or the work level where you can see all of that work coming in, user stories, subtasks, etc. But then the really cool part is we're bringing in the high-level project information with all of our other projects. So you can see here I have lots of different project types. I have PMBOK projects, I have Six Sigma projects, but I also have Jira Agile projects all together in one view. So instead of having to go into multiple different systems or having to copy data from one Excel spreadsheet to another and manually generate this type of a report by pulling all this information together, it's just here for me. Anytime I want, as an executive or as a project manager or whatever, I can come and see all of the projects that I'm interested in all in one place, and then a picture of how they're doing. What's the overall health? Is it red, yellow, green? The schedule health, the work health, etc. And keep in mind, right, this isn't just standard project management projects, this is Agile projects as well, or even in some cases hybrid projects where you might have some Agile and some waterfall mixed together into the same schedule where you manage some of that in one system and some in another system, but bring it all together. So you have one standard view, and then you have other views like cost views, etc., where you can see different types of details, not just the KPIs around these particular projects. One of the other big reasons to bring this data in is a really hard question sometimes in most organizations is, what are people working on? Do they have availability to take on more projects or more tasks or more user stories or whatever it might be, defects, that type of a thing? And it's a really hard question because people might be working on all kinds of things. You might have support tickets, you know, as a developer, let's say, you might have support tickets coming from the support desk that you have to help out with. You have to work on your software development tasks that are in Jira. You have to work on some project tasks and other projects in the organization possibly. And it's really hard for resource managers or managers in general to get an idea of who's working on what and how much of their availability is it taking. Do they have availability left for other work? Are we utilizing them properly? That type of a thing. So what this allows you to do, because we pushed all of that work from Jira back into Project Online, when we go run our resource reports in Project Online, we're going to get a full picture of what people are working on. So here's my Scrum team here. It's a small team, let's say, and The black line here is going to show me the amount of availability my team has. So they have a certain amount of hours per month is what we're looking at here available. Notice that goes up and down over time. That's due to holidays, less working days within a particular month, those types of things. So it's going to pop up and pop down a little bit. And then the stacked bars here are going to show me how much work is assigned to each person. Each color is a different person here. And the team as a whole, we can see in the first 3 months are over-allocated, way over-allocated, almost double allocated in the second month here. So that's a problem. We probably need to look into that and figure out what's going on. But they do have some availability a little bit later on out here. So maybe we can give them some more work, or we can take some of this work and spread it out a little bit over the rest of this, right? There's different things we can do. But at least we have the visibility into that of what's going on, and we can see that and get a better picture so we can make better decisions. Down below, then, you can even see the details of which projects each person are working on, both Agile or not, regular project management projects, Agile projects, services, whatever types of work we're pulling in, you're going to be able to see that all there. And if you want an even more detailed view, you can flip to the assignment view, and I can see for each particular person, like Daniel Williams here, all the projects he's working on, including Agile ones. Here's my e-commerce portal development project, and I can see all the specific items, tasks, user stories, etc. that he's assigned to right here, how much work's estimated for those types of things, all within one place with all of his other work as well. So that's huge, right? That's always a big question. But it's not just the resource types of reports and information that we're looking for. It's a full picture of our portfolio, right? We're doing all these different types of projects, both Agile and regular standard PM projects. And we want to pull that all together into one portfolio and kind of compare apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. Bring that all together and start to get an idea of, okay, we got 29 active projects. We can see how much work is estimated for each project and which ones are taking up more work, and start to get really a better picture from a reporting perspective on everything from cost to prioritization to work to schedule, and see it all within one place without having to manually bring these reports together, right? I just come in here, run this report, and I get the information that I need. So it's really huge for organizations to do this. You can see how much efficiency you can gain, and you can see how much better information you're going to get to be able to make better decisions into doing so. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Heather. She just has a few more slides for you, and then we'll let you guys go for today. So there you go.
Thank you, Matt. All right, perfect. So wrapping up, there are a lot of benefits of integrating your Agile tools with PPM. Integration drives visibility into strategic alignment to ensure you're aligned with the business and its goals. There's also extreme value in bringing all your work together in one solution. So without visibility into all the work that is being executed as well as your resources, you wouldn't be able to make the most optimal decisions, right, for the greatest return on business value. So as we mentioned earlier, leveraging Project Connect, you can bring these systems together seamlessly and quickly using a pre-built connection. Your teams will be able to make better forecasts and set realistic expectations given the appropriate information and governance, which will improve overall for planning, executing, and reporting. End results are pretty straightforward as well, right? Visibility is everything. If you have visibility into all the information you need to make the right decisions, you'll be able to centrally plan and control your projects to ensure optimal project performance. Collaboration is key. Connected teams outperform disconnected teams every single time. So leveraging a unified solution will help bring your teams together and will ultimately help produce happier users as well. So as we wrap up, I want to thank everyone for joining us. I have a couple of special offers at the end, so stick around for that. But to give you a brief overview of who we are and what we do, Tivity is a business productivity solution provider. We are 100% focused on the Microsoft Cloud Office 365. We have many years of Microsoft technology experience across the board and have been working with customers to adopt and excel in their online environments since the beginning of SaaS. We do offer pre-built business solutions that are designed to get you up and running quickly with little upfront cost. And of course, leveraging best practice configuration so you can get the most out of your Office 365 or your project online environments. As a thank you for joining us today, we'd like to extend a special offer to you. If you'd like to receive a free PPM and Agile assessment and roadmap to help you work towards a unified Agile and PPM solution, please reach out to us at the email on your screen. We'll be happy to get back to you so we can schedule a one-on-one demo to kick off that process. This offer is good through the end of the year, December 31st, 2015. So with that, we hope you found the information useful and insightful. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our information is here on the screen. We do have additional webinars on our website as well at tivity.com, so check out those. I've added the next two on the screen for you as well. You can also find more information on our pre-built solutions at tivity.com. So with that, we will close today's webinar. Have a wonderful day, and once again, thank you so much for joining.